and the harbour at dusk. Thank you for joining us tonight as we explore the ancient wisdom of Epictetus and the tranquil world of Nicopolis, Greece. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Turn down your screen brightness, and if you'd like, leave a comment below. Tell us where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing we're sharing this journey together, scattered across different time zones, each of us seeking a moment of peace in our busy lives. Tonight we travel back nearly 2,000 years, to a harbour where the weight of empire meets the gentle wisdom of a man who understood that true freedom comes not from what we possess, but from what we choose to think. The sun hangs low over the Adriatic Sea, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Here in the ancient port city of Nicopolis, the day's work is drawing to a close. The harbour stretches before us like a natural amphitheatre, its waters still and reflective as polished bronze. Fishing boats bob gently at their moorings, their weathered hulls telling stories of countless voyages across these ancient waters. The masts sway in perfect rhythm, creating a soft percussion against the evening breeze. You can hear the gentle lapping of waves against the stone quay, the creak of rope and timber, the distant call of gulls wheeling overhead in lazy circles. The air carries the mingled scents of salt and seaweed, of pine resin from the hills beyond, and the faint aroma of olive oil and bread from the tavernas that line the waterfront. Fishermen are mending their nets in the golden light, their weathered hands working with the practiced ease of generations. Their voices carry across the water in the melodic cadences of ancient Greek, punctuated by quiet laughter and the occasional splash of an oar. Along the harbour's edge, merchants are securing their wares for the night. Amphora filled with wine and oil stand in neat rows, their clay surfaces still warm from the day's sun. Bolts of silk and wool are carefully wrapped and stored away, their rich colours muted now in the gathering dusk. Children play among the moored boats, their bare feet slapping against wet stone as they chase each other through the maze of ropes and cargo. Their laughter echoes off the water, pure and joyful, a reminder that happiness often comes from the simplest pleasures. An old woman sits on a low wall, spinning wool on a wooden spindle. Her fingers move with automatic precision while her eyes watch the horizon, perhaps waiting for a son or husband to return from the sea. The rhythm of her work, the twist and pull of the thread, creates its own meditation, a perfect example of finding peace in purposeful action. The water itself seems to breathe with life. Small fish dart in silver schools just beneath the surface, their movements creating ripples that catch and scatter the fading light. Occasionally, a larger fish breaks the surface with a gentle splash, sending concentric circles spreading outward until they disappear into the vastness of the harbour. As the sun sinks lower, torches begin to flicker to life along the waterfront. The flame light dances on the water, creating a pathway of gold that seems to lead directly to the horizon. The transition from day to night happens gradually here, without rush or urgency. Time moves differently by the sea, more gently, more naturally. In this peaceful scene, we sense the presence of someone special. A figure moves quietly along the harbour's edge, observing but not intruding. This is a man who has learned to find wisdom in simple observations, who understands that the greatest truths often reveal themselves in the most ordinary moments. His name is Epictetus, and though he walks with a slight limp, a reminder of his years in slavery, his spirit moves with complete freedom. He pauses by the water's edge, watching the interplay of light and shadow on the gentle waves. In his eyes, you can see the deep contentment of someone who has discovered that peace comes not from controlling the external world, but from mastering one's own thoughts and responses. The harbour at dusk becomes, in his presence, more than just a place of commerce and daily life. It transforms into a classroom, a space where the eternal rhythms of sea and sky offer lessons in acceptance, patience, and the quiet strength that comes from understanding what we can and cannot control. As the last light fades from the western sky, the harbour settles into its evening rhythm. The sounds grow softer, the movements more deliberate, the pace more contemplative. This is the perfect time for reflection, for considering the day's experiences and finding in them the seeds of wisdom that can guide us toward a more peaceful tomorrow. Hatched, whispers of the olive grove. As the harbour settles into its evening calm, we follow a winding path that leads away from the water's edge. up through the gentle hills that surround Nicopolis. The cobblestones beneath our feet are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, each one polished to a soft sheen by the passage of countless pilgrims, merchants, and philosophers seeking solitude in the groves above the city. The path curves between low stone walls, their surfaces covered in wild rosemary and thyme. With each step, the aromatic herbs release their fragrance into the cooling air, creating a natural perfume that seems to clear the mind and settle the spirit. The sound of our footsteps mingles with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant bleating of goats on the hillsides. Here, just beyond the reach of the city's bustle, lies an ancient olive grove. These trees have stood for generations, their gnarled trunks twisted into fantastic shapes by decades of wind and weather. Some are so old their centers have hollowed out, creating natural shelters where a person might sit in contemplation, surrounded by living history. The olive trees spread their branches wide, creating a canopy of silver-green leaves that filter the remaining daylight into a soft, dappled pattern on the ground below. Each leaf catches and releases the breeze with a gentle whisper, creating a natural symphony that speaks of patience, endurance, and the quiet strength that comes from deep roots. This is where Epictetus often came to walk and think. Among these ancient trees, he found the perfect metaphor for the Stoic life. Like the olive tree, which bends with the wind but does not break, the wise person learns to adapt to circumstances while remaining firmly rooted in principles. The tree does not waste energy fighting the storm. It simply endures, knowing that the wind will pass and the sun will shine again. The ground beneath the trees is carpeted with fallen olives, their dark purple skins glistening in the fading light. Some have been gathered by local farmers, but many remain, slowly returning their essence to the soil that nurtured the trees. There is wisdom in this cycle, in the understanding that what we give back to the world often matters more than what we take from it. A small stone bench sits beneath the largest of the olive trees, worn smooth by countless hours of use. This is where Epictetus would often sit, observing the interplay of light and shadow, listening to the conversation between wind and leaves, finding in nature's rhythms the same principles he taught to his students. From this vantage point, the view stretches across the valley toward the sea. The city of Nicopolis spreads below like a living map, its buildings and streets laid out in orderly patterns that speak of human ambition and organization. Yet from this distance, even the grandest structures seem small and temporary, reminders that all human endeavors are part of a larger, more enduring story. The olive grove teaches its own lessons about control and acceptance. The trees cannot choose their weather, cannot determine when the rains will come or when the harvest will arrive. They can only respond to each season with grace, drawing what nourishment they can from whatever conditions present themselves. In their patient endurance, they embody the Stoic principle of focusing on what lies within our power while accepting what does not. As evening deepens, the grove takes on an almost sacred quality. The whisper of leaves becomes a gentle meditation, inviting the mind to slow down and release the accumulated tensions of the day. Here, among these ancient witnesses, the problems that seemed so urgent in the city begin to find their proper perspective, revealing themselves as temporary challenges rather than permanent obstacles. The simple dwelling. As night settles more deeply over the olive grove, we make our way along a narrow path that leads to a modest dwelling nestled among the trees. This is the home of Epictetus, a structure so simple and unpretentious that it might easily be overlooked by those seeking grandeur or display. The house is built of local stone, its walls weathered to a soft grey that blends harmoniously with the surrounding landscape. The roof is made of clay tiles, many of them cracked or patched, speaking of years of faithful service against sun and rain. There are no ornate decorations, no marble columns or elaborate frescoes. This is a home built for living, not for impressing visitors. A single wooden door, painted a faded blue, serves as the entrance. The paint has peeled in places, revealing the natural wood beneath, but the door hangs straight and true on its iron hinges. Beside the entrance, a small window allows the soft glow of an oil lamp to spill out into the gathering darkness. We step across the threshold into a room that embodies the Stoic principles of simplicity and focus. The floor is made of packed earth covered with woven rush mats, their surfaces worn smooth by years of use. The walls are bare except for a few wooden shelves that hold scrolls and writing materials. There are no unnecessary ornaments, no displays of wealth or status, only the essential items needed for a life dedicated to learning and teaching. In one corner stands a simple wooden bed, its frame sturdy but unadorned. A wool blanket, dyed a deep blue with local herbs, is folded neatly at its foot. This is where Epictetus rests each night, his sleep untroubled by concerns about luxury or comfort. He has learned that true rest comes not from soft mattresses or silk sheets, but from a mind at peace with itself. The centerpiece of the room is a small writing desk, positioned near the window to catch the morning light. The desk is made of olive wood, its surface polished smooth by years of use. Upon it rest several clay tablets, a bronze stylus, and an inkwell carved from local stone. These are the tools of his trade, the simple implements with which he records the wisdom that will outlast empires. Scrolls are arranged neatly on the wooden shelves, each one carefully labeled and preserved. These contain the works of earlier philosophers, the recorded conversations with students, and the ongoing development of ideas that will eventually become the foundation of Stoic thought. In this humble room, profound wisdom is being born from the marriage of observation and reflection. A clay oil lamp provides the only artificial light, its steady flame casting dancing shadows on the walls. The lamp burns olive oil pressed from the very trees that surround the dwelling, creating a perfect circle of local resources supporting contemplative life. The light is warm but not bright, sufficient for reading and writing, but gentle enough to encourage the natural rhythm of sleep. Near the desk sits a simple wooden stool, its surface worn smooth by countless hours of use. This is where Epictetus sits each evening, reviewing the day's experiences and extracting from them the lessons that will inform tomorrow's teachings. The stool has no cushion, no decoration. It serves its purpose without calling attention to itself, much like the philosophy it supports. A small clay pitcher and basin occupy another corner of the room, along with a clean linen towel. These represent the basic necessities of daily hygiene, nothing more and nothing less than what is required for health and cleanliness. There is no excess, no luxury, but neither is there any deprivation. This is the middle way of Stoicism, neither ascetic denial nor indulgent excess. The room's atmosphere speaks of contentment found in simplicity. Every object has its purpose, every surface its function. Nothing is wasted, nothing is superfluous. This physical environment reflects the mental discipline that Epictetus teaches, the practice of distinguishing between what is necessary and what is merely desired, between what serves genuine needs and what merely feeds the ego's hunger for more. As we observe this humble dwelling, we begin to understand that true wealth has nothing to do with material possessions. Here, in this simple room, lives a man richer in wisdom than most emperors are in gold. His treasures cannot be stolen. His wealth cannot be diminished by market fluctuations or political upheaval. He has discovered the secret of finding abundance in enough. At the agora at dawn, as the first light of dawn touches the hills around Nicopolis, we leave the philosopher's simple dwelling and make our way back toward the heart of the city. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the scent of dew on wild herbs and the distant aroma of bread baking in the early morning ovens. The world feels newly made in these precious moments before the day's heat and activity begin in earnest. Our footsteps echo softly on the stone-paved streets as we descend toward the agora, the great marketplace that serves as the beating heart of civic life. The sky above is painted in delicate shades of rose and gold, while the first birds of morning call to each other from the rooftops and garden walls. This is the hour when the city begins to stir, when the day's possibilities stretch ahead like an unwritten scroll. The agora spreads before us like a great open theater, its boundaries marked by covered walkways and public buildings. In the center, a large open space provides room for the stalls and booths that will soon fill with merchants and their wares. The ground is paved with large flat stones, worn smooth by generations of feet, each one a testament to the countless transactions and conversations that have taken place here. Already, the early vendors are beginning to arrive. A potter wheels a cart loaded with amphora and storage jars, their surfaces still bearing the marks of his hands and tools. The clay vessels catch the morning light, their earth-toned surfaces glowing warmly in the gentle illumination. He arranges them carefully on a woven mat, each piece positioned to show its best qualities to potential buyers. Nearby, a woman spreads out bolts of cloth dyed in rich colors, deep blues made from imported indigo, warm reds from local madder root, and golden yellows from saffron brought by caravan from distant lands. She smooths each fabric with practiced hands, checking for flaws and arranging the display to catch the eye of passing customers. Her movements are economical and purposeful, each gesture the result of years of experience. A baker arrives with baskets of fresh bread, the loaves still warm from the ovens. The aroma fills the morning air with promises of sustenance and satisfaction. He sets up his simple wooden table and begins arranging his wares. Round loaves marked with traditional patterns, flat breads perfect for wrapping around cheese and olives, and sweet pastries studded with honey and nuts. As the sun climbs higher, more vendors appear. Farmers bring fresh produce from the surrounding countryside. Baskets of olives and grapes, bundles of herbs and vegetables, wheels of cheese wrapped in clean cloth. Fishermen arrive with the night's catch, their silver prizes arranged on beds of seaweed and ice brought down from the mountains. Into this growing bustle walks a familiar figure. Epictetus moves through the marketplace with unhurried steps, his keen eyes observing the intricate dance of commerce and human interaction. He is not here to buy or sell, but to witness and learn from the great theatre of human nature that plays out each day in this public space. He pauses to watch a merchant negotiating with a customer over the price of a ceramic bowl. The merchant gestures expressively, praising the quality of his work and the beauty of the glaze. The customer examines the piece carefully, turning it in her hands to check for cracks or imperfections. This simple transaction becomes, in Epictetus's observant eyes, a lesson in the nature of value and desire. Moving on, he observes a group of children playing between the stalls while their mothers conduct business. The children have created their own games from scraps and imagination, rolling wheels made from pottery shards, dolls fashioned from corn husks, races that weave between the vendors' displays. Their laughter adds a note of pure joy to the marketplace symphony, reminding all who hear it that happiness often comes from the simplest sources. An elderly man sits in the shade of a covered walkway, repairing sandals with needle and thread. His weathered hands work with steady precision, each stitch a small act of restoration and care. Customers wait patiently while he works, understanding that quality craftsmanship cannot be rushed. In his quiet dedication to his trade, he embodies the Stoic virtue of focusing completely on the task at hand. Epictetus watches all of this without judgment, seeing in each interaction a reflection of universal human patterns. The merchant's pride in his work, the customer's careful evaluation, the children's spontaneous play, the craftsman's methodical skill. All of these represent different aspects of the human experience, each valid in its own way. As the morning progresses, the agora fills with the sounds of commerce and conversation. Voices call out prices and descriptions of goods. Coins clink as they change hands. Animals bleat and cluck from their pens and cages. The percussion of hammers and tools adds rhythm to the human symphony. Yet through it all, Epictetus maintains his observers calm, finding in the apparent chaos the underlying patterns that reveal deeper truths about human nature and the art of living well. The echo of sandals on stone. As the morning activity in the agora reaches its peak, we follow Epictetus as he turns away from the marketplace and walks toward a quieter section of the city. Here, away from the bustle of commerce, stands a modest building that serves as his school, a place where the practical wisdom of Stoicism is passed from teacher to student in an unbroken chain of learning. The building itself is unremarkable, constructed of the same local stone as the philosopher's dwelling, with simple lines and functional design. There are no grand columns or elaborate decorations to announce its importance. Like the philosophy taught within its walls, the school's value lies not in outward appearance, but in the substance of what takes place there. We approach the entrance through a small courtyard paved with flat stones. A few olive trees provide shade, their branches creating natural gathering spaces where students might continue their discussions after formal lessons end. Stone benches, worn smooth by years of use, offer places for quiet contemplation or intimate conversations about the deeper questions of life. Outside the main classroom, we notice something that speaks volumes about the dedication required for philosophical study. Arranged neatly along the wall are several pairs of sandals, their leather straps and soles showing the wear of daily use. These simple objects tell a story of commitment, of students who have walked considerable distances to be here, who have literally followed in their teachers' footsteps along the paths of wisdom. The sandals vary in style and condition, reflecting the diverse backgrounds of those who seek instruction here. Some are well-made and relatively new, suggesting students from prosperous families who can afford quality footwear. Others are patched and worn, speaking of those who have sacrificed material comfort in pursuit of philosophical understanding. Yet here, outside the classroom door, all are equal, reduced to their essential function of protecting feet on the journey of learning. One pair in particular catches our attention, sandals so worn that the leather has molded perfectly to the shape of their owner's feet. The straps are soft and supple from constant use, and the soles are thin from countless miles of walking. These belong to a dedicated student who has made the journey to this place many times, who has literally worn a path between his own dwelling and this seat of learning. We can imagine the conversations that have taken place as these sandals were removed and carefully arranged. Students greeting each other, sharing news of their journeys, perhaps discussing questions that arose during their walk to school. The simple act of removing one's sandals becomes a ritual of transition, a physical gesture that marks the shift from the ordinary world of daily concerns to the elevated realm of philosophical inquiry. The stone floor where the sandals rest is worn smooth by this daily ritual. Generations of students have paused here, preparing themselves mentally for the lessons ahead. The worn stone speaks of continuity, of wisdom passed from teacher to student across decades and centuries, each generation adding its own understanding to the accumulated knowledge of the ages. Through the open doorway, we can hear the gentle murmur of voices engaged in discussion. Epictetus is speaking with his students, his words measured and clear, each phrase chosen carefully to convey maximum meaning with minimum confusion. The tone is conversational rather than lecturing. This is education as dialogue, wisdom emerging from the interaction between questioning minds rather than being imposed from above. The classroom itself is as simple as everything else associated with this school. Stone benches provide seating, arranged in a rough circle that allows all participants to see and hear each other clearly. There are no elaborate teaching aids, no complex diagrams or expensive materials. The only tools required are attentive minds and the willingness to examine one's own thoughts and assumptions. Sunlight streams through high windows, illuminating dust motes that dance in the warm air. The light itself becomes a teaching tool, its constant movement and change serving as a visible reminder of the impermanence that characterizes all earthly things. Students learn to observe even these simple phenomena with philosophical eyes, finding in them illustrations of the principles they study. As we listen to the quiet discussion within, we understand that this is where the practical application of Stoic principles takes place. Students bring their real-world concerns and challenges, examining them through the lens of philosophical understanding. They learn to distinguish between what lies within their control and what does not, to focus their energy on thoughts and actions rather than outcomes and external circumstances. The echo of sandals on stone. This simple sound represents the daily commitment required for philosophical growth. Each step toward wisdom must be taken deliberately with full awareness of the journey's demands. The students who have walked here today, leaving their sandals outside the door, have made a choice to prioritize understanding over comfort, growth over complacency. The amphitheater's silence. As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, we leave the intimate setting of the school and make our way to one of Nicopolis's most impressive structures, the great amphitheater that overlooks the city and the sea beyond. Built to accommodate thousands of spectators, this massive stone construction represents the grandest ambitions of human engineering and civic pride. The amphitheater rises from the hillside in carefully calculated tiers, each row of seats positioned to provide optimal viewing of the performance space below. The stones are precisely cut and fitted, their surfaces worn smooth by decades of weather and use. From the highest seats, the view encompasses not only the stage, but the entire sweep of the city, the harbor, and the endless expanse of the Adriatic Sea. Yet today, the great structure sits empty and silent. No crowds fill the seats, no actors declaim their lines upon the stage, no musicians fill the air with melody and rhythm. Instead, the amphitheater offers something perhaps even more valuable than entertainment: the profound peace that comes from contemplating the relationship between human ambition and the eternal rhythms of nature. We climb the stone steps slowly, our footsteps echoing in the vast space. Each tier we ascend provides a broader perspective, a wider view of the world spread out below. By the time we reach the upper rows, the people in the city streets appear as small as ants, their individual concerns and activities reduced to barely perceptible movements in the grand tapestry of existence. This is where Epictetus sometimes came to reflect on the nature of human importance and the proper scale of our concerns. From this elevated vantage point, the problems that loom so large in daily life reveal their true proportions. The merchant's anxiety about his profits, the politician's worry about his reputation, the student's fear of failure. All of these appear differently when viewed from the perspective of eternity. The silence here is profound, but not empty. It is filled with the whisper of wind through stone, the distant cry of seabirds, and the soft rustle of wild grasses growing between the ancient seats. These natural sounds provide a gentle counterpoint to the human-made grandeur of the structure, reminding us that even our most impressive achievements exist within a larger context of natural forces and cosmic time. As we settle onto one of the stone benches, we can imagine the thousands of people who have sat in this very spot over the decades. Each brought their own hopes and fears, their own joys and sorrows, their own brief moment of participation in the great drama of human existence. Yet where are they now? Their individual stories have merged into the larger narrative of history, their personal concerns resolved by the simple passage of time. The stage below, once alive with the voices of actors and the movement of dramatic performance, now hosts only shadows and silence. Yet in its emptiness, it becomes a more powerful teacher than it ever was when filled with artificial drama. The real performance, we begin to understand, is not the scripted entertainment that once played here, but the ongoing drama of learning to live wisely in an uncertain world. Epictetus understood that while he might occasionally speak to large gatherings in places like this, his real work happened in smaller, more intimate settings. The amphitheater could hold thousands, but wisdom is typically transmitted one heart at a time, one conversation at a time, one carefully considered insight at a time. The grand scale of public speaking has its place, but the real transformation happens in quiet moments of personal reflection and individual commitment to growth. The late afternoon light casts long shadows across the empty seats, creating patterns of illumination and darkness that shift slowly as the sun moves across the sky. These moving shadows become a meditation on the nature of change, constant, inevitable, but also gentle and natural when we learn to observe rather than resist. From our elevated position, we can see the olive groves where Epictetus walks in contemplation, the simple dwelling where he lives with such contentment, the agora where he observes human nature in all its complexity, and the school where he shares his insights with dedicated students. All of these places, so important in the daily rhythm of philosophical life, appear small and humble from this grand perspective. Yet this is precisely the lesson the amphitheater teaches. True significance lies not in the scale of our stage or the size of our audience, but in the quality of our character and the depth of our understanding. The philosopher who influences one student to live more wisely has achieved something more valuable than the politician who commands the applause of thousands. As the sun continues its descent, the amphitheater's silence deepens into something approaching the sacred. This is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of fullness. A space so complete in itself that it needs no additional ornamentation or activity to justify its existence. In learning to appreciate such silence, we take an important step toward understanding the Stoic principle of finding contentment in what is, rather than constantly seeking what might be. And coastal path contemplations. As the sun sinks lower in the western sky, painting the clouds in shades of gold and crimson, we descend from the amphitheater and follow a winding path that leads toward the coast. This ancient track has been worn smooth by countless feet, fishermen heading to their boats before dawn, shepherds guiding their flocks to hillside pastures, and philosophers like Epictetus, seeking the clarity that comes from walking beside the eternal sea. The path curves through groves of pine and oak, their branches creating a natural canopy that filters the late afternoon light into a gentle dappled pattern. Wild herbs grow along the edges of the track, rosemary and oregano, sage and thyme, releasing their aromatic oils with each brush of our passing. The air itself becomes a form of medicine, clearing the mind and settling the spirit with each breath. As we walk, the sound of the sea grows gradually stronger. At first, it is merely a whisper beneath the rustle of leaves and the call of birds. But with each step toward the coast, the rhythm becomes more pronounced. The eternal percussion of waves against stone, a sound that has continued unchanged since the world began and will continue long after all human concerns have been forgotten. The path emerges from the trees onto a headland that offers an unobstructed view of the Adriatic Sea. Here, the full majesty of the natural world spreads before us in all its indifferent beauty. The water stretches to the horizon in every direction, its surface painted with the colors of the setting sun. Waves roll in endless succession, each one unique yet part of an eternal pattern. This is where Epictetus often came when he needed to contemplate the largest questions of existence. Standing at the edge of the known world, with nothing but water and sky extending beyond the reach of vision, he found the perfect setting for considering humanity's place in the cosmic order. The sea, in its vastness and power, provides a natural lesson in humility and acceptance. We settle onto a flat stone that serves as a natural bench, worn smooth by wind and weather and the passage of countless previous contemplators. From this vantage point, we can observe the interplay between the elements, the way the wind shapes the waves, how the light changes the water's color from deep blue to silver to gold, the manner in which the coastline both resists and yields to the sea's eternal advance. A small fishing boat appears on the horizon, its single sail catching the evening breeze. The vessel appears tiny against the immensity of sea and sky, yet it moves with purpose and confidence across the vast expanse. Here is a perfect metaphor for the human condition, small and fragile in the face of cosmic forces, yet capable of navigation and progress through skill, knowledge, and acceptance of natural laws. The boat's occupants cannot control the wind or the waves, cannot command the weather or determine the sea's mood. They can only adjust their sails, choose their course, and respond skillfully to whatever conditions present themselves. In their practical seamanship, they demonstrate the fundamental Stoic principle of focusing on what lies within their power, while accepting what does not. As we watch, the boat disappears around a distant headland, leaving only the empty sea and the memory of its passage. This too becomes a teaching, a reminder that all human endeavors are temporary, that even our most purposeful actions eventually fade into the larger story of time and change. Yet this does not diminish their value. The boat served its purpose, carried its passengers safely, fulfilled its function in the great web of existence. The sun continues its descent, and the colors of the sky deepen and intensify. Clouds catch and hold the light, creating a constantly changing display of natural artistry. No human painter could capture this beauty, not because of any lack of skill, but because the beauty itself lies partly in its transience, in the knowledge that this exact combination of light and color will never be repeated. From a small leather pouch, we might imagine Epictetus withdrawing a simple meal. Bread, olives, a piece of cheese, perhaps a few figs dried in the Mediterranean sun. This is not a feast by any worldly standard, yet consumed here, in this setting, with full attention to its flavors and textures, it becomes a banquet of contentment. The bread tastes of grain and earth, the olives carry the essence of ancient trees. The cheese speaks of pastoral hillsides and patient craftsmanship. This simple meal becomes a meditation on gratitude and sufficiency. How much do we really need to be satisfied? How much of our discontent comes from comparing our circumstances to some imagined ideal rather than appreciating what we actually have? The philosopher's modest repast, consumed with full awareness and appreciation, provides more genuine nourishment than the most elaborate feast consumed in distraction or anxiety. As we eat, seabirds wheel overhead, their cries adding a wild music to the evening air. They ride the wind currents with effortless skill, rising and falling in perfect harmony with the invisible forces that support their flight. They do not struggle against the wind or wish it were different. They simply use it, work with it, find in it the means to achieve their purposes. The waves continue their eternal rhythm, each one bringing water from the deep ocean to touch briefly against the land before retreating to merge once again with the vast whole. In their ceaseless motion, we see reflected the nature of all existence, the constant flow of change, the impossibility of holding on to any particular moment, the beauty that lies in accepting, rather than resisting, this fundamental truth. As the meal concludes and the sun approaches the horizon, a deep peace settles over the coastal scene. This is not the peace of emptiness or inactivity, but the peace of alignment, of being in harmony with the natural order, of understanding one's proper place in the larger scheme of existence. It is the peace that comes from releasing the futile struggle to control what cannot be controlled and focusing instead on what genuinely lies within our power. And under the night sky, as the last light of day fades from the western horizon, we remain on the coastal headland, watching as the first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. The transition from day to night happens gradually here, without the harsh suddenness of artificial lighting. Instead, we experience the natural rhythm of illumination giving way to darkness, of solar radiance yielding to the gentle glow of distant suns. The evening star appears first, hanging like a jewel in the deepening blue of the western sky. Venus, the ancients called it, though Epictetus knew it as simply another wandering light in the celestial dance. One by one, other stars emerge from the gathering darkness. First the brightest, then the more subtle, until the entire dome of heaven reveals itself in all its quiet magnificence. Here, beneath this vast canopy of light, we find ourselves in the presence of something that reduces all human concerns to their proper scale. The stars that shine down upon us tonight also shone upon the ancient Greeks, the builders of the pyramids, the first humans who looked up in wonder and began to ask the eternal questions about existence and meaning. The Milky Way emerges as a river of light across the heavens, its ghostly luminescence stretching from horizon to horizon. To the ancients, this celestial pathway represented the road traveled by souls after death, the bridge between earthly existence and divine mystery. For Epictetus, it serves as a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things, the way individual lights combine to create something greater than the sum of their parts. A gentle breeze rises from the sea, carrying with it the scents of salt and seaweed, pine resin and wild herbs. The air itself seems to breathe with the rhythm of the waves, creating a natural meditation that requires no effort or technique, only the willingness to be present, to receive what is offered without demanding more. In this setting, the day's experiences begin to settle into their proper perspective. The busy activity of the harbor, the quiet wisdom of the olive grove, the humble simplicity of the philosopher's dwelling, the bustling energy of the agora, the dedication represented by students' sandals, the grand silence of the amphitheater, the peaceful contemplation beside the sea, all of these moments weave together into a single tapestry of understanding. The stars above seem to pulse with their own quiet rhythm, their light traveling across unimaginable distances to reach our eyes. Some of these points of light represent suns that may have ceased to exist long ago, their illumination continuing its journey through space long after its source has been extinguished. Yet their beauty remains undiminished, their contribution to the night sky's splendor unaffected by questions of permanence or impermanence. As we lie back against the sun-warmed stone, the entire cosmos spreads above us in silent majesty. The concerns that seemed so pressing in daylight begin to dissolve into the larger perspective of infinite space and eternal time. This is not to say that our daily challenges become meaningless, but rather that they find their proper place within a much grander context. The sound of waves continues its gentle percussion against the shore below, a rhythm that seems to synchronize with the beating of our own hearts. We are part of this vast symphony of existence, neither separate from it nor lost within it, but connected to everything while remaining uniquely ourselves. This is the profound peace that Epictetus discovered, the understanding that we belong to something infinitely larger than our individual lives, while still maintaining full responsibility for our own choices and responses. A shooting star traces its brief arc across the heavens, burning bright for just a moment before fading back into darkness. Its appearance reminds us that even the most transient phenomena can possess extraordinary beauty. That significance does not require permanence. Like that brief celestial visitor, our own lives are temporary manifestations in the eternal flow of existence, brief but no less meaningful for their brevity. The night deepens, and with it comes a profound stillness that seems to emanate from the stars themselves. This is the silence that exists between thoughts, the peace that underlies all activity, the rest that makes motion possible. In learning to touch this deep quietude, we discover the source of the strength that allows us to meet whatever challenges tomorrow may bring. As sleep begins to approach, carried on the gentle rhythm of waves and the soft whisper of wind through coastal grasses, we carry with us the day's lessons. We have walked with wisdom through ancient streets, sat in contemplation among timeless olive trees, observed the eternal dance of human nature in the marketplace, and found in the vastness of sea and sky the perspective that allows all things to find their proper place. The weight you carry, the decisions that await, the challenges that seem so daunting in the bright light of day, all of these remain, but they are transformed by understanding. You have touched something eternal tonight, something that exists beyond the reach of circumstance and change. In that touching, you have found the peace that passes understanding, the deep rest that comes not from the absence of challenge, but from the presence of wisdom. Let the stars be your companions as you drift toward sleep, their ancient light a reminder that you are part of something magnificent and enduring. Let the rhythm of the waves carry you gently into dreams, their eternal pattern a lullaby that has soothed countless souls before you and will comfort countless more in the years to come. Rest now, knowing that tomorrow's challenges will meet you with whatever strength and wisdom you have cultivated today. Rest in the knowledge that you have everything you need to meet whatever comes, not because life will be easy, but because you have learned to find peace in the midst of difficulty, strength in the face of uncertainty, and joy in the simple fact of being alive beneath these eternal stars. The night sky holds you in its vast embrace, the sea sings its ancient song of patience and acceptance, and somewhere in the olive groves above the city, the wisdom of ages continues its quiet work of transformation. Sleep well, and let these gentle influences carry you into the deepest rest, the peace that comes from understanding your place in the grand design and finding it good.